So I want to be able to share something around compassion. All this week in the emotional intelligence coaching, client work, speaking sessions that I've had, what has come up quite a bit is the necessity to learn what compassion is, both from the perspective of self-compassion and a demonstration of compassion to others. So I just want to highlight this in one interaction that I had this week. So an individual was sharing with me the difficult emotions that they were finding themselves in, and in those emotions, the thinking about themselves that they wrestle with. And so I shared with them that many years ago, when I struggled with an eating disorder, when I was in the throes of an eating disorder, there was the necessary therapy to be done, but also the necessary rewiring of internal thinking processes about value and worth and what that's connected to. So is my value and worth for being loved connected to what I look like physically? And in that therapy, there's a certain amount of psychological reframing and rewiring that needs to be done, but we also learned in those sessions self-compassion. Now, fast forward to my early 40s, and I start the process of perimenopause early. And in that process, something that happened was my thyroid was wonky. It wasn't behaving the way it's supposed to behave, which is quite normal. And a lot of that is associated to the fact that I'm a distance athlete. And as a distance athlete, what ends up happening is you put your body under stress on a regular basis. So your thyroid is pumping cortisol into your body. Now, as you get older and as a female entering those older years, I'm 48 now, that when menopause would naturally come on, based on being an endurance athlete, forced that process a little bit earlier. So when I started to notice that my throat was sore, I seemed to be off, I wasn't recovering as well, my energy kind of sucked, I went to see the naturopath. And through the testing, she's like, yep, your hormone levels are off and your thyroid is off. So here are the things that we need to do. You increase these kinds of foods in your diet for natural sources of your hormones and recovery. You need these supplements to boost these things that are lacking, and you need to pull back on your running. And in all honesty, the ask to pull back on the running was the one that I struggled with the most because of how I associate with who I am and how I am and what my value is, and to running, to racing, to what running does for my physicality. So all of this work 24 years prior in the eating disorder recovery comes flooding forward and like rewiring. There's that thinking again that can derail how we feel and then how we behave, the internal shaming and blaming. And this is where the skills of self-compassion rush in to be able to say, woo, that thinking is not true. There are no pillars that anchor that thinking to anything that is actually objective. And so self-compassion helps us to stop that train from pulling out of the station and running what we do. Self-compassion keeps that in its place. It keeps that out of the equation. Our self-awareness skills help us to identify that that has a potential of derailing us. And using self-compassion in that moment is extremely powerful. Now, while I was using and use those skills for myself throughout my journey of life, the importance of communicating it in that conversation was to be able to demonstrate to someone else, I get you, I see you, I feel you. The same thing happens within me as well. And their response was, fuck, being human, like we're human. And in that is where compassion for others lies. You're human. I'm human. These are the things that we experience. And when we take the time to share them with people that we know care about us, love us, want the best for us, what we end up doing is we end up strengthening our own skills under self-compassion. And as we strengthen those skills, our ability to show compassion to others improves.